Hi and welcome back to the vlog. As promised, this video is going to be a story time video. This story takes place in December of 2001, back during my military days when I was younger, thinner, and better looking. The footage you're going to see that's going to be spread throughout this was filmed in December of 2011. It was part of a college assignment. At the time I did the narration for the story was December of 2011. Here's a quick clip for my project. I'm going to tell a story and give you some footage to go along with it. As you can see, I was much heavier, although younger with more hair. The setup is December 2001. I was working on duty. I was on a mobile patrol that day, like a law enforcement patrol. I was military police. And I went to a place called the Visitor Control Center in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I went to go see my friend Baker for some military-related stuff. So I go into the visitor center. He was operating it at the time. I go up to him, I'm talking to him for a few minutes. There's some people in there. I really didn't pay a lot of attention to them. So after I finished talking to Baker, I turn around to leave, and there's this really attractive woman standing in front of me with a smile on her face, and it kind of caught me off guard, and I was like, hi, and she smiles, doesn't say a word, she just holds up a candy cane and gives it to me, and I just kind of take it like, thank you, and then I leave, and I go about the rest of my shift. That night, when I got off duty, I went to one of my friend's apartments that was on base, and we hung out, had a few drinks, so I got a little intoxicated. Alright, I got pretty drunk. As I was staggering home back to my dorm, sometimes when I'm drunk, I like to call friends so I have like a friendly voice to anchor me, to help me keep my focus while I work my way home. So on this night, I decided to call Baker. Only when I called Baker, it wasn't Baker that answered the phone. It was a strange female voice. And I was like, who's this? And she goes, this is Tina. I go, who's Tina? She goes, I'm Baker's friend. She goes, I was in the visitor center earlier today. I was like, oh, it's Candy Cane Girl. Oh, awesome. I'm excited. Like, oh, hey, how's it going? You know, I mean, I was on duty earlier. I really couldn't talk to her, but now it's different. So we're talking back and forth. We're kind of flirting with each other. And I was like, hey, you want to come over to my dorm room and hang out? She laughed. She's like, oh, I really can't tonight. I was like, oh, that's too bad. It would have been nice to see you again. So I go back to my dorm room. I pass out. I wake up the next day. The next day is a training day. On this particular day, we're doing an intox class where we train people to detect, drunks. There's a machine that you'll use called a breathalyzer, but there's also these things called field sobriety maneuvers where it's, you've seen them in the movies probably, like, touch your nose, walk a straight line. In order to do that training properly, you need people to legitimately be under the influence of alcohol. So me, being a 23-year-old airman at the time, happily volunteered to be one of the drunks. While I was there, indulging in Jack Daniels for this situation, my friends, my military brothers, thought it'd be funny to sneak me even more alcohol. So I went way above the amount I was supposed to drink, and at a certain point, I got really super intoxicated. I mean, we're talking like really freaking drunk. I got so drunk, there was this female captain there who was absolutely beautiful. And I think I'm using my inside voice, my whisper voice, like, oh man, she's so beautiful, she's so beautiful. Only it's not that quiet, it's really loud. Oh man, she's so beautiful, she's so beautiful. She is hearing every word I'm saying. She walks up to me. She's also one of the drinkers, by the way, so she's also somewhat intoxicated. She smacks me across the face and she goes, you're a drunk ass. So I get smacked. I bounce back real quick. I go, drunk ass. I go, I'm not a drunk ass. I turn around, bend over, I grab my butt cheeks, and I go, I'm a drunk ass. The whole room goes silent. She is standing there stunned. But then she starts laughing. So everyone else starts laughing, kind of like, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, So I was like, oh good, Holt's not going to jail. I spent the next 6 months apologizing to her and her husband, who was there, every time I saw them. And also, another fun fact, her military career, she was an advocate for the Airman Defense Council, which means her job is to defend troops that get in trouble. Luckily, she had a sense of humor and a lot of understanding, as did her husband, who was also a captain. I eventually get back to the dorms. I sleep some of it off. I wake up. I'm hanging out with my friend Andrea now. Andrea is like my BFF at the dorms. We're hanging out. We're watching a movie, whatever. Well, the phone rings, and I look at it, and it says Baker's name on the caller ID. I answer it, but it's not Baker. It's the girl from the night before, the girl from the phone call. I was like, oh, hey, what's up? So we're talking, we're flirting back and forth, and she's like, why don't you come over and we'll hang out tonight? I said, look, I'd love to. I go, but I'm really drunk right now and I can't drive. And she goes, no problem. She goes, I'll send Baker to come pick you up. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. I go, all right then, awesome. So I get off the phone. I'm all excited, like, yeah, I might get lucky. I might get lucky. You know, Andrea gets this look, and she's like, who is that? I go, oh, her name's Tina. She's Baker's friend. And she's like, Tina, huh? Like, yeah. I go, I met her at the visitor center yesterday. She gave me a candy cane. She's really cute. And Andrea's like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, totally, right? So Baker comes, picks me up, and we're driving what feels like forever. And we end up in this trailer park out in the middle of nowhere in Cheyenne, Wyoming, somewhere on the outskirts. As we're pulling in, I start kind of getting this sinking feeling like maybe this wasn't the best idea. Baker says, go on in, I'm right behind you, right? He's like, just walk in. I said, all right. So I'm walking up, I'm kind of looking at this place, you know, like, all right, this is nice, you know, nothing wrong with this, you know. I open the door, and I get hit with this wall of cigarette smoke. And it's like, as I'm working through the haze, I scan the room. I see this really young girl sitting on the floor. She's just smoking away. As I look up, I see this older, very interesting looking woman, to say the least, sitting on a couch. And then as I pan over, I see this guy, Ola. I think his name was Ola. We called him Section 8 Ola because he was a little mentally unbalanced in all the wrong possible ways. Not like cool crazy, like, dude, what's wrong with you crazy? But I don't see Candy Cane Girl. And I'm kind of confused. I'm looking around like, where's the girl, right? So I look for a place to sit. I see this big empty chair. So I go to sit in the chair, and Baker's like, no, that's my spot. You know, sit on the couch. And I'm like, okay. So I sit on the couch, and I'm wondering, well, maybe she's in the bathroom. Maybe she'll be out in a minute. So I'm sitting there, and the older girl on the couch starts advancing towards me, and I'm looking at her as she's getting closer, and as she's getting closer, I'm seeing more of the details of her. Like, her hair is one big solidified mass from all the hairspray. She's wearing a white tank top that's stained and smells like body odor and stale cigarettes. And then she goes, are you Keith? And I go, yeah. She goes, I'm Tina, and she smiles, revealing these hideous black teeth. Every tooth in her mouth was as black as my combat boots, and I am just stunned. I'm looking at this like, oh my God, she's like, you are hot. And I'm just, what is going on, right? She puts her legs on me like I'm a footrest, and I am like, all right, be cool. This is the girl from the phone. This is not Candy Cane Girl. This is somebody completely different. This was someone that was clearly in the visitor center that I did not see the day before. All right, not a problem. Baker, who went in the back room, will be out in a minute. When he comes back out, just say, hey, Baker, I'm not feeling very well. Maybe you should take me home, right? So I'm trying to be polite, and I'm cracking jokes. Do you want a drink? And I'm thinking, the last thing I need right now is a drink, right? I'm like, no, I'm good. Baker comes walking out of the back room, shirt off, and this very aggressive, like Stone Cold Steve Austin just walk, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-bum, ba-bum. He's got a dip of chew in his mouth, and he sits down on his big comfy chair, almost like he's Conan the Barbarian. Now, up to this point, this guy has been a very quiet, somewhat timid guy. I've never seen this side of him. As he sits in his chair like Conan, the young girl on the floor crawls over to him, and she wraps her arms around his leg, almost like he's like, he's Emperor Conan, and she's like slave girl or something. And I'm just like, what is going on, right? And Baker says the worst possible thing. He says, I just took my meds. I'll be passing out soon. Freaking guy had insomnia, and he took medication so he could sleep. So my transportation, my ride out of here, just drugged himself. I'm in the middle of nowhere, in the dead of winter, in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I am so screwed. I'm here for the duration. All right, play it cool, right? So I just start talking. I'm telling stories, cracking jokes, whatever I can do to keep Tina at bay. I get up to use the bathroom. I come back in the room. There's Tina all sprawled out on the couch, and I'm just kind of like, oh man, right? So I sit back down. Once again, I become her footrest, and she's kind of doing the whole, cute flirtation thing. And part of me feels pretty cheated right now because I thought it was going to be Candy Cane Girl. I even asked, I'm like, hey, where's the girl with the candy cane? And she's like, oh, she's sick with mono. I was like, oh, that's unfortunate. As the night's progressing, Tina is just like very aggressive. Like, she even starts bragging that her father owns the trailer park. So she's the princess of the trailer park. I remember at one point she throws the remote control of the TV. I don't know if she's trying to establish dominance or whatever, but I'm just kind of sitting back like, okay, all right. So this whole time, that young girl sitting on the floor is just smoking cigarette after cigarette, just coughing and hacking. Finally, I say something to her. I say, hey, how old are you? And she gets kind of cute with me. She's like, how old do you think I am? And I go, honestly? I go, I think you're only 16. And she's like, no. I'm like, 17? She's like, no. I go, 18? She's like, I'm younger. I'm like, 15? No. I'm like, 14? Yeah. You're 14 years old? Yeah. I go, you're 14 years old and you're smoking? She's like, yeah. I go, how long you been smoking for? She gets this real sad look on her face and she goes, well, I've been smoking since I was 7, since my father died. And I go, oh, I'm sorry. I go, well, how'd your father die? And she goes, lung cancer. And I just look at her. And I go, hey, I don't know you, but here's the thought, just throwing it out there. If your father died of lung cancer, and you've now been smoking for half your life, and you're already coughing and hacking like an 80-year-old woman, you might want to consider quitting. And then Tina jumps in and she goes, so what's the youngest you go out with a girl? And I'm like, 18, right? So then she looks at the girl, she goes, well, that rules you out. And I'm thinking, it don't help you much either. So then she says, so last night on the phone you were telling me how beautiful I was. What do you find beautiful about me? And I look at her because I was thinking about Candy Cane Girl. I wasn't thinking about her. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, and I'm desperately trying to find something, clinging to whatever I could. I'm like, well, best I could come up with. I'm like, well, what makes an ugly person ugly? I'm like, you have nice characteristics, failing miserably. Suddenly, out of nowhere, springing up from the love seat is Ola, who just jumps into the story like he's some kind of dime novel detective. Ola talked like he was a bad actor. He goes, oh my God, I just had a flashback to when I was staring down the barrel of a gun. And I'm like, what? So he goes into the story. He goes, happened about a year ago. I was a cop back in New York. He was a mall security guard. I was chasing after a shoplifter, and I turned the corner, and I found myself staring down the barrel of a gun. I drew my weapon, and we had a stare-off. But the dumb bastard forgot to load his gun. I almost died that night. And every time I close my eyes, I see myself staring down the barrel of a gun. That is why I joined the Air Force and became a cop. And I'm like, wait, what the hell are you talking about? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because now all the heat's off me and all the focus is on Ola. Tina, young chain smoker girl, are now focused on him. And he just keeps talking. He is now the center of attention, which is very good for me. So I see this as an opportunity to slowly lean back on the couch and close my eyes and pretend to drift off to sleep. So they're talking, and they're talking for a while, and I'm listening. I'm like wide awake. I am much more sober than I was earlier, right? So then it gets quiet, really quiet, and I'm like, okay, all right, they're probably going to bed now. It's fine, right? So I'm laying there, and I can hear this movement. There's something hovering above me. I can feel it, right? But I don't want to open my eyes yet. I don't want to show my hand like I'm awake. I'm just going to pretend I'm sleeping. But then suddenly, I can feel whatever it is, and it's getting closer. I open my eyes, and it was like slow motion as I see this hideous black mouth moving in for the kill. And I'm like, no! And before Tina can make contact, I'm like, Rrr! I turn my head out of the way, and she realizes she's just been rejected. Pissed off, she storms out of the room. And I'm thinking, oh crap, I just pissed off the princess of the trailer park. I am doomed. I'm going to have to leave. Baker's passed out from his medication. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to freeze to death in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So she comes storming back in the room. And I'm thinking quick. I go, look, I have a confession to make. I have a girlfriend. Her name is Andrea, and I love her. And as much as I want this to happen, I couldn't do it to her. I just wouldn't feel right at all. Tina bought it. She's like, oh, well, that's actually really nice of you. I was like, yeah. She's like, man, why can't I meet a nice guy like you? Why are all the good guys taken? I'm like, you'll find somebody. I'm sure of it. So she backed off, and I kind of like laid back and, just lay there for a little while. Eventually, I kind of just drifted off. And then when I woke up a little bit later, I looked next to the couch on the floor. There's Tina sleeping all snuggled up in my sweatshirt, and I was like, oh no. That's the end of that sweatshirt. And I was like, there's no way I'm getting that back because I'm going to have to wake her up, and that's what she wants. So I wait a little bit more. It's probably about 6 or 7 in the morning now. I tiptoe around her. I go into Baker's room. I wake him up. I'm like, get up, right? He wakes up. Oh, what? I'm like, please take me home, like now, right? So he gets up, takes me back to the dorm. I am exhausted. I get back to my room. I pass out. I sleep for hours. Phone rings, wakes me up. I look at the caller ID. It says Baker. I'm like, oh, Baker, I answer it. Hey, Keith, it's Tina. And I was like, oh, hey, Tina. She's like, you left your sweatshirt here. I was like, did I? She's like, you want me to bring it to you? I'm like, no, it's okay. Why don't you give it to Baker? He can get it to me. She's like, I could bring it to you if you want. I'm like, no. It's fine. Just give it to Baker. She's like, well, I can bring it to you when you're at work. And I'm like, no. Just give it to Baker. Give it to Baker, right? I hang up. I think about it for a minute. I go find Andrea. I tell her what happened. She is laughing her ass off. She knew exactly who Tina was. In fact, Tina had a boyfriend who was also in the military. I go, well, look, she's going to call again. And when she does, I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend, and I need you to scare her off. So she laughs and says, all right, fine, right? So sure enough, the next day, the phone rings. I'm running down the hall of the dorm with the phone. I'm banging on her door. Andrea opens the door. I hold up the phone. She gets on the phone. She's like, hello? He's in the shower. Who's this? Aren't you so-and-so's girlfriend? Why are you calling Keith? Oh, a sweatshirt, huh? Well, you're friends with Baker. Give it to him, and he can get it back to Keith. Right? She hangs up on her, and that's the last time I ever heard from Tina, Princess of the Trailer Park. So sad that Candy King Girl ended up having mono. Never saw her again either. But this story, this is one of the reasons why I don't really drink that much. That's not to say I don't drink. It's just I probably can count the amount of times on one hand that I've been drunk in the last 5 years. Well, I hope you enjoyed the story. I hope you're doing well. And I will see you in the next video, which may or may not be another story. It could just be an update about things and how everything is going. Until then, take care, be safe, and I will see you next time. Bye. No! Tina! No! No! Cut.